From the moment I first saw the concept art for the brand new Norwegian Prima back when it was coming out, I knew that it was a ship that I wanted to sail on. It just looked so beautiful, unlike anything that Norwegian had done before in terms of aesthetic, and I knew that I wanted to sail on the ship. However, I started to read reviews, like bad reviews, and saw that people weren't really big fans of this ship. So I had to go and sell it for myself, and I just got back from a 10-day cruise on board the Norwegian Prima, and in this video, I'm going to tell you all about my experience and my honest cruise review. Hello everyone, my name is Zach. I am the Traveling Man, and if you've never watched one of my videos before, well, welcome. I encourage you to go down below. Please subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up while you're down there. But I do ship reviews on every cruise ship that I sail on. I've currently been on 33 cruises and counting because I have a lot more coming up in the future. Love taking you all along with me. Love being able to share those experiences here on the channel. But after every cruise, I always do a cruise review, and I share that here. And how I do a cruise review is through what I call my STEPS process, and STEPS is an acronym, and of course there are 5 elements in STEPS, where the first S stands for ship. I'll tell you all about the Norwegian Prima, what I thought about the ship, my stateroom, how the internet was, things like that. The T is for taste, where we're going to talk all about the food on board Norwegian Prima, and that's a big topic, one we're really going to need to get down into and really talk about the food because it's a big one on Norwegian Prima. The E is for entertainment, and definitely going to have a very frank conversation about entertainment on the Prima, as well as pretty much all Norwegian ships. The P is for ports, and I can't wait to tell you about the ports. I've been excited to share about that. And then the S, the second S, is for service. We'll talk about the crew and how the general service on board the ship was. So let's just jump right on in with this review. We're starting with that first S, first ship, the Norwegian Prima. And first thing I can tell you about the Norwegian Prima is it is a beautiful ship. I mean, probably one of, if not the most beautiful ships I've ever sailed on. From the moment I stepped on board there in the main atrium, I was like, wow. Next, I proceeded to the elevator bank, and I was still like, wow. Then I went to my stateroom, and I had for this cruise something a little bit different because I typically like to get a balcony stateroom on cruises, but this time I was trying to go as cheap as possible for this 10-day cruise, so I did get an inside cabin, and I'm putting in some clips here. You're seeing that cabin. It is probably the most beautiful cabin that I've ever stayed in, and it's definitely the largest cabin. I mean, for what I paid for an inside cabin, the largest inside cabin I'd ever stayed in before. Just a huge stateroom, and I heard that from everybody on board the ship. That seemed to be the thing that they loved the most was their stateroom, because it seems like on these Prima class of ships, there are currently 2 right now. The Prima, the Viva is currently out, and then the Aqua is coming out in March or April of 2025. 3 ships that Norwegian will have, the Prima series, but it seems like they have made staterooms bigger, and not just bigger for Norwegian standards, but bigger for cruise industry standards, because these weren't suites or anything. This was a standard inside stateroom, and it was a huge stateroom. I had plenty of room. I was afraid I would get kind of claustrophobic being in an inside cabin, but never experienced anything like that. Really, really enjoyed my inside stateroom, and some of the best sleep I've ever had on a cruise. I mean, I would turn the light out at night or in the middle of the day even. It didn't matter. And it was night time. It was time to go to bed because it was pitch dark in there. And it was also nice because I knew it was cooler outside because of where we were sailing. We were sailing in Northern Europe. So it was just nice to feel all cozy and dark in the stateroom. And I just slept really, really good in that room. In fact, I slept so good, I had no issues with jet lag. So I flew from the east coast of the United States to Reykjavik, Iceland to start this cruise. So there's about a 5-hour time difference there. But for the first several nights, usually when I fly to Europe, it's terrible. I can't sleep, but I had no issues at all sleeping in this beautiful stateroom. And in addition to it being beautiful and big, the AC in that room was like amazing. That AC never stopped running. A lot of cruise ships, you'll turn the AC on, it'll cool down the room a little bit, and then that's it. You don't hear anything. It's very quiet. I'm someone who likes to have a fan in the room or hear air conditioning when I'm sleeping. And y'all, that AC inside of that stateroom was always cranking. So in addition to the ship being beautiful and the staterooms being beautiful and large, the ship just had so many different spaces. There was such a variety of spaces on board the Prima, which I really enjoyed. There's so many venues on board that ship. Now, I think this is where a lot of folks complained about the ship because a lot of folks went and felt like the venues were crowded, because the venues are smaller because they tried to fit more venues on board the ship, so every venue is a little bit smaller probably than what you would experience on other ships. That led to a lot of crowding, I think, and a lot of people didn't like that. But I never really experienced that. There was only one time when I actually felt very crowded in a venue, and that was inside of the comedy club that they have. I guess that's one thing to kind of be cautious about, is maybe some of the crowding because of the small venues. But it was not an issue for me, so that's nothing that I'm deducting points from my personal experience. That was just something I wanted to note, because I think that is where a lot of the negative reviews for the Prima come from. Now you can tell that they definitely designed this ship with the guest experience in mind. Like, not only did they want to make their most beautiful ship, their most aesthetically pleasing ship, they wanted to create something that their guests would give great feedback on. Things like the rooms being larger than they are typically on cruise ships. I mean, that adds to the guest experience. I think having all those different spaces definitely adds to the guest experience. Having a myriad of food options, which we'll talk about in the next section when we talk about food. But all these things, I think they really wanted the guests to have the best experience that they could have on a cruise ship. And it definitely worked, at least for me, because I definitely had a great time and didn't want to leave the Prima when my 10 days were up. So I think they succeeded in doing the guest experience right on this ship. And I will say that we can compare the Norwegian Prima to a ship like Celebrity Beyond. And I'll say that because I've sailed a lot with Celebrity. I really love their ships, and I think their ships are the most well-designed ships at sea, the most beautiful ships at sea. Well, that's until I sailed Prima, because I think Prima is right up there with the Edge series of ships. And I know that's a big claim for a lot of you to hear, but I really think that it's true. And if we compare the Celebrity Beyond and the Norwegian Prima, they came out around the same time, I think. They were new ships, flagships for their respective brands at the same time. They're actually around the same size. I think the Prima is a little bit bigger than the Beyond. However, the Prima holds about 150 less people at max occupancy than the Beyond does. So that just shows you how Norwegian kept the guest experience in mind when they designed this ship. Now, I mentioned that I loved the variety of venues available on the ship. I want to talk about the area that I love the most on the ship, and that's Ocean Boulevard. Ocean Boulevard is on deck 8. It's actually the outside deck on deck 8. This deck actually extends all the way around the ship. You can actually walk, if you're a walker or a jogger and you want to go out there and get your morning steps in, you can walk all the way around that deck without having to, go inside or anything. It's completely outside, which I really enjoyed. But there are so many spaces on Ocean Boulevard. There's just a seating area all the way forward. They've got, I think, 5 or 6 tables on each side of the ship. Beautiful views, of course. Wherever you're sailing, you're going to have those. And then just back from that, there's like an area of art. There's like an art exhibit called The Zone, which is really neat. And then you'll make it to the Infinity Beach area, which is where they're going to have the infinite pool. They have infinite pools there for any guest to use right there. They have tons of lounger seating. And a lot of folks complain about the pool deck on the main deck of the ship, which is deck 17, and it certainly is small. Probably one of the smallest pool decks that I've ever seen, and the smallest pools, and that definitely was odd to me for a ship as big as Prima. But then I got down to deck 8 and saw those infinity pools and all the loungers, and it made more sense to me. Like, this is designed to spread people out a little bit, and I think that's true for the whole ship. We'll talk a little bit about that in food, how some of the venues are small, but there's so many different venues to get food. So the pool deck might be small, but there are so many places to sit outside, to sit by a pool, to be up close to the water. And I think that's what they were doing. They were trying to keep people dispersed and moved about the ship. While the pool deck is small, of course, we can't deny that, they do have those infinity pools on deck 8 on Ocean Boulevard, and they are beautiful. I mean, it's a great place to get pictures. I really enjoyed being out there. I think I spent the most time on the whole cruise on deck 8, either sitting out there or walking laps or just enjoying the beautiful scenery that we were sailing by, because it was a perfect place to go and relax. Another venue on the ship that I really liked that did seem small at first was the theater. Especially for a ship as big as the Prima, you would think they would have a huge theater, because that's just what cruise ships do, right? But not on Norwegian Prima. This was actually a transformative theater, which means during the night, and I think certain times during the day, you would walk in and it was just a big open space. The theater actually serves as the club, so you could go in there at night, and that's where they would have the club. It would have a huge dance floor. But then they could pull out bleachers and actually have that as the main theater for main shows and live music and things like that. I thought that was pretty cool. There's nothing special about the Prima Theater there on board the ship, though, but I did see some pretty cool shows, and I'll talk a little bit about that when we get to the entertainment section. One of the things that I disliked about the ship, one of the few things that I disliked about the ship, was the observation lounge, or specifically the size of the observation lounge, because one of the things I like best about a Norwegian cruise is the observation lounge. I love how they designate a space on the top deck, the highest deck, and in the very forward of the ship, just a seating area, just a place for folks to go and hang out. If we're doing some scenic cruising or passing something interesting, I like to view it from the observation lounge. However, the observation lounge was way too small on the Prima. There was often not places to sit. One of the sea days, they actually closed it off completely for many hours of the day, like in the middle of the day when folks are wanting to get in there and have a seat and, just rest and relax a little bit. They closed it off completely for a private function. And they had a lot of the private functions in there where they would close at least half of the lounge. So I think they need to either make the observation lounge bigger or create another lounge space for folks to go so that they can have private functions in one or the other and not have to run folks out when it's already limited seating to begin with. Now, I promised I would also talk about internet since that sort of falls under the ship infrastructure, and the internet was good on this cruise. I have no complaints about it. It, of course, Starlink, like most all cruise ships are today, so I did just want to mention that if you're someone who likes to buy the premium internet or the streaming internet, that's what I had on the cruise, and it was fast as could be. We were sailing in the Norwegian fjord, so there were times when the internet would kind of be very slow or just not responsive at all, but I think that was more because of our location and, the satellites and all that cool stuff, more than it being a problem with the ship's Wi-Fi infrastructure. So for all those reasons together, and just for the reason that I loved the Norwegian Prima, I'm going to give the ship a 4.8 out of a 5 rating. Next up is the T for taste. Let's talk about the food on Norwegian Prima. And I talked about the wide variety of spaces available on board the ship. There's a wide variety of food available on board the ship as well. I'm talking about 2 main dining rooms, no less than 8 specialty restaurants. You have a buffet, you have indulged food hall, you have snacks in the observation lounge. What more could you want in terms of food on board this ship? And speaking of indulged food hall, that could be my review, y'all. That could be it. I could just talk about Indulged Food Hall and leave you with it, because Indulged Food Hall is an amazing concept. If you're not familiar with Indulged Food Hall, it's basically an extension of the buffet. So the buffet was another reason a lot of people complained, because it's on top of, deck 17 right there near the pool. It's tiny. I mean, if we're comparing all cruise ship buffets, like, it's probably the smallest. This thing was like a quarter of the size of a normal cruise ship buffet. So it was very small, very limited places to sit up there, but they also have the local, which is a 24/7 eatery on board the ship that anyone can eat at for free. It's included in your cruise. And then they have Indulged Food Hall, which is also included in the cost of your cruise, and it does not cost you anything extra to eat at. And I think because of this, again, they're trying to spread people out, right? They're trying to have people there on deck 8 eating, up on deck 17, all these free eateries that are available around the ship. And I like to have options, and I think the Norwegian Prima had more options for food than any other cruise ship that I've ever been on, especially in Indulged Food Hall, because this is sort of like a buffet concept in and of itself. You sit down at a table, you have like an iPad there, and you use that iPad to order food, and you can order food from any of the venues available. I think there's probably something like 6 to 8 venues inside of Indulged Food Hall, and you can mix and match. You can order food from 3 different restaurants in one order. It was really cool. All the food's included. Usually when you get food that's included and free on a cruise, it's just okay. It's not the best food on the cruise because they want you to pay more for that, right? But Indulged Food Hall was probably some of the best food on board Norwegian Prima, and I ate at many of the specialty restaurants. I loved Indulged Food Hall so much that I only went to the main dining room once the entire cruise. Hudson's main dining room. It's on the very back of the ship on deck 7. I did enjoy it. I thought it was beautiful in there, but I could not stop going to indulge. I mean, it was a problem. They're open for lunch and for dinner. They have continental breakfast offerings in there in the morning, but I didn't really go in there for that. And the options at lunch and dinner are different. So if you go for lunch and you like the options, we'll go back for dinner too, because there's different options. And I noticed that the menu did change throughout the week, so they would throw in different options or new options that they didn't have earlier in the cruise, so that was really cool. I think my favorite place to eat in there was Tamara. Tamara was the Indian food, and y'all, I had so much curry on this cruise. It was delicious. Some of the best Indian food I've ever had, much less on a cruise ship. So Indulged Food Hall gets major points from me. I loved it. I couldn't stop myself from going there. Speaking of specialty dining, I went to 5 specialty restaurants. Le Bistro and Los Lobos, the French and Mexican inspired restaurants, respectively, were my favorites. I really enjoyed eating at those. And Le Bistro was probably the most beautiful specialty restaurant I've eaten at. such a well-themed restaurant. I mean, it's the French restaurant, and it felt like I was on the set of Beauty and the Beast. Like, it was really cool. I really enjoyed Le Bistro. I also enjoyed Cagney's. Cagney's is a steakhouse there. Cagney's is on every Norwegian ship. I think I've been to Cagney's too much. I enjoyed it. It was good, but I just, after this point of going every cruise to the steakhouse, I should stop doing that. All the food was good in the specialty restaurants, but those were my favorites. I also went to Onda, which is the specialty Italian restaurant on the ship, and I went to Palomar. Palomar debuted on Norwegian Prima. That's sort of a Mediterranean-inspired restaurant. I went to both of those, but they weren't my favorites. The other three were definitely much better. Another thing that Norwegian really does well with food is the desserts. I think the Norwegian desserts, and I'm talking about the ones you can get on the buffet, they have some in the observation lounge that you can take and go. I think those free desserts are some of the best at sea. I mean, they're like specialty dessert quality. They're like desserts you would get in a specialty restaurant. So for all those reasons, and the biggest reason being Indulge Food Hall, I'm going to give food on board Norwegian Prima a 4.6 out of a 5 rating. Next up is the E for entertainment, and entertainment remains the weakest component of a Norwegian cruise. I've said that, I think, on all my reviews. This is my 3rd Norwegian cruise, by the way, and I think in all the reviews I've done on Norwegian, I've always talked about the entertainment and how it could just be better. They just don't do enough for entertainment, and what they do in entertainment is amazing. So on this cruise, we had Donna Summer, the musical. That was the main show in the theater. They also had The Price is Right live. These were the 2 marquee shows on board the ship, the 2 big shows that you can make reservations for ahead of the cruise, which I did. And those are the ones that everybody wanted to go to. And they were amazing. I think that Donna Summer musical is the best show I've ever seen, the best stage production show I've ever seen on board a cruise ship before. It was incredible. It was an hour and a half long. And y'all, previously I said the best stage production show I'd seen on a cruise ship was Choir of Man, which was on another Norwegian ship, Norwegian Encore. So that just goes to show you, Norwegian does know what they're doing in putting together a main stage production show. And also they have a huge cast. Like the main stage cast is a huge cast. So many people in the Donna Summer musical. Unfortunately, I don't have any video clips to show you. Usually I like to insert clips of what I'm talking about, the show specifically. They asked no one to record, and so I made sure not to record anything, but it was really, really good. Not to be missed. However, because the venue is so small, like we talked about previously, there's just not enough space to fit like the entire ship in one seating. So they do have multiple shows throughout the cruise. I think at least 3 or 4 nights of this 10-night cruise, they had Donna Summer the musical inside the main theater. So folks that really loved it could come back, or folks who just hadn't had an opportunity yet because of the size of the theater could come and actually see the show. They only had those 2 like main stage shows the entire cruise. That's 2 nights out of 10 nights that you could see something really cool, something really unique, a main stage production show or a game show on the main stage. And I just wish they would step that up because, like I said, they do so well when they do main stage production shows. They just don't do enough of them. Price is Right was so fun. They had that, like Donna Summer the musical, multiple nights throughout the cruise. I went on, I think, the next to the last night, and I wish I had gone earlier and gone multiple times because I really, really enjoyed The Price is Right. It was just so cool. I used to watch The Price is Right with my grandmother as a kid and always loved that show. I always dreamed of like getting to go to Hollywood and be on the show, you know? So it was cool to like be in the live audience on board the ship, and they've done a great job with that. It was the most fun show or thing I've ever been a part of on a ship before. It was so cool. I wasn't caught up on stage or anything, but I still love the show. They actually, when you're walking in, they scan your card, see your name. They actually give you the name tag and everything. And everyone, or every adult rather, that goes into that show is actually entered into the drawing for the opportunity to go down on stage. So you never know if they're going to call your name or not. It was really fun. I want to see more. I got to have more. We got to up this entertainment score, y'all, because I wanted to give it, after I saw Donna Summer the musical, Price is Right, I wanted to give it a 5 out of, I wanted to give it a 10 out of 5, you know? But I can't because there's not enough entertainment on board the ship. Now, they do have live entertainment all around the ship. Like I said, the atrium was always lively, always had live music. They had like dance classes and stuff in there. They also had Sid Norman's Poorhouse, which a lot of people love. They had, apparently, I never got to go in there, but apparently they had a really cool band in there that played multiple nights throughout the cruise that people really loved. They had live music in a lot of the different bars and the venues all around the ship. So always something to keep you entertained. They had, of course, trivia and bingo and deal or no deal, things like that that people love to do on their cruises. They had all that. And some nights of the cruise in the Prima Theater, when they weren't having one of those 2 main stage shows. They actually had some guest performers. They had a magician. They had a guest vocalist. They did do the Newlywed Game one night. They do that on all cruises, I think, across all lines now. They just need more stage production shows. So, for all those reasons, I can only give entertainment a 3.9 out of a 5 rating. Next up is P for ports, and y'all, this was an incredible itinerary, and I haven't even told you where I've gone yet, but instead of me telling you, why don't I just show you? Because I now have a really cool way to display exactly where I went on this cruise. Look at this. So check this out from my friends at the Cruise Maps. They sent me this map of my cruise itinerary, everywhere we went on the cruise. And it's not just the itinerary, they actually get the actual GPS location of the ship and they plot it on a map. So you can see we started over here in Reykjavik, Iceland. We took a couple stops here, Ísafjörður and Akureyri, and then we sailed across the Norwegian Sea over to Norway, where we stopped at 3 places. We stopped at Geiranger, we stopped at Ålesund, we stopped at Bergen. Then we traveled on down to Amsterdam, we went to Bruges, and then we ended in Southampton, England. And now this is commemorated forever, and I'm going to put this on my wall and have it because this was such a cool cruise, and now I can commemorate that and always remember what fun I had on board the Norwegian Prima. I can remember all the cool places I saw, and you can see right down here, you can actually put any title that you want to. So I chose 10-night Northern Europe on Norwegian Prima, and then over here they put details such as the ship that you went on, the dates that you went on. You can see the 4th of July through the 14th of July, 10-day cruise, and then they actually put how many nautical miles. So this entire cruise was 2,375 nautical miles, and you can actually get it just printed. You can just get the print, or you can get it framed. They offer framing and a lot of different types of frames, a lot of different choices that you can make in regards to how your map looks. So make sure you go over to their website, thecruisemaps.com. I'm actually going to put a link down below. And if you use my affiliate link and my promo, the folks at the Cruise Maps have been so generous as to offer 10% off your order for all people who order using my promo code and using my link. So make sure you go to the Cruise Maps and get one of these maps. I'm going to get more because I love it. And all the cruises that really mean a lot to me, I'm going to make sure to get a map for because it's just a great way to always commemorate that cruise and always remember. So thank you so much to my friends at the Cruise Maps for sending this over and for helping me to commemorate forever the amazing cruise I went on Norwegian Prima. And this was an incredible cruise. Like I said, we started in Reykjavik, and that was a cool place to start from. Never even been to Iceland before, but it was really cool to fly into Reykjavik. Really cool to sail in Iceland. I really enjoyed Ísafjörður and Akureyri, and I can't wait to go back. And I'm already looking at future itineraries that return to Iceland. Norway was beautiful. I'd been there last summer, and knew I wanted to go back. Went to Geiranger for the very first time, had never been there before, and fell in love with it. Fell in love with Geiranger Ford. Beautiful sailing there. Also loved Ålesund, going back there, walking around the town. Didn't really do an excursion there, just walked around and enjoyed myself. Went to Bergen, that was my second time there. And again, just sort of walked around the town. Didn't really film too much, just wanted to enjoy myself and really get the full vibe of the city, which I was able to do. Then we went down to Amsterdam, my first time in Amsterdam. And y'all, it won't be my last because I absolutely adored Amsterdam. Such a beautiful city, and it poured down rain that day. Can't wait to go back. We'll definitely keep that on my list to go back. And then we went to Bruges, and Bruges was incredible. Probably the best smelling city that I've ever been in because they were making those Belgian waffles, they were making the chocolates, and it just smelled like of sugar everywhere in that city. A beautiful city. The architecture is just amazing. Just a short ride from the cruise port, so really enjoyed all of the cities that we went to on this cruise. It was also cool. I like to get on a cruise ship and like travel a great distance, you know? So it was really cool that we started in Iceland and ended in England. So really enjoyed the itinerary, really enjoyed the excursions I got to go on. And speaking of excursions, I wanted to give a shout out to my friends at Shore Excursions Group. If you haven't already, go over and check out their website because they do offer incredible excursions all around the world. I've used them in literally every corner of the world now. Northern Europe, I've used them in Australia, used them all around the Caribbean. So make sure you go click that link down in my description for Shore Excursions Group to book your next excursion. And you won't be sorry that you did. You'll get to see a lot of cool things just like I did on my cruise. We did a lot of scenic cruising this cruise because we saw things like fjords, of course, in Norway. We went north of the Arctic Circle, which was amazing, and that was definitely a bucket list item. Then we sailed through canals as we were going in and out of Amsterdam. We sailed through a lock, the largest lock in the world. It can hold the largest cruise ship in the world, which is currently the Icon of the Seas from the Royal Caribbean. But we took the Norwegian Prima through a lock, which I did not even know was going to happen or was possible, but it was very cool. This was a great cruise. And y'all, I encourage you, if you've never been to Northern Europe before, please go. You will love sailing in Norway. Go to Iceland, sail in Iceland. The weather was very cool, literally very cool. It was like in the 40s and 50s for highs when we were in Iceland. A little bit warmer, the 50s and 60s when we got down to Norway. And still like, you know, in the 60s probably, because it was kind of cloudy and rainy. Pretty much cloudy and rainy the whole cruise. Unfortunately, we didn't have too many sunny days on this cruise, but that was okay. So what else can I give the PIF reports other than a 5 out of a 5 rating? Now, finally, we're going to talk about the second S for service. And we're going to talk all about the crew. And I can't say anything, but it was perfect service. I mean, the crew was just so amazing. The crew was just so happy everywhere I went around the ship. The crew was fantastic. I went to the Starbucks just about every day. And by the third day, they knew my name. They knew what I wanted. I walked up and they were like, "You want this?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." So a really good crew. My room steward was probably the best room steward I ever had. He anticipated my every need. I never had to ask him for anything, because I would go into my room and everything would just be perfect. He was always so happy, and he just always greeted me when I walked down the hall. I thought that the crew was so well polished in what they were doing. They were so ready to go to meet all of the needs and requests of the guests. So I can't give service anything but a perfect 5 out of a 5 rating. So when we take all of those scores and we put them together, we come up with a brand new record, because Norwegian Prima has just scored the highest of any cruise experience that I've had, and that shows you how nearly perfect this cruise was. I had such a great time. It was such a beautiful ship, and that's why Norwegian Prima is my new top cruise experience at a 4.7 out of a 5 overall rating. So if you get an opportunity to sail on board Norwegian Prima, I highly recommend that you do. I can't wait to sail her or one of her sister ships in the future. Really looking forward to Agua coming out. So let me know in the comments down below. Have you sailed on Prima or Viva before? Are you looking forward to Agua coming out? What do you think of these ships? I love them. I am hooked. I can't wait to sail Prima or Viva or Agua very, very soon. Folks, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it informative. If you did, please go down below, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know that you enjoyed the video. Make sure while you're down there that you subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, because we have a lot more cruising adventures to come very, very soon. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you on the next adventure.